The biggest brands on earth pay the most not to be forgotten. Procter & Gamble spent $8 billion last year just to be remembered, not to sell you something new, just so you don't forget the names you already know. That's the strange machine we're taking apart today. Start with the company, because Procter & Gamble might be the most quietly dominant business you never think about. Run the names in your head: Tide, Pampers, Gillette, Crest, Pantene, Bounty, Charmin, Dawn, Olay, Oral-B. 10 categories, one company, $84 billion of revenue last year, up from $82 the year before, and it is not running unopposed. Unilever, Colgate, Kimberly-Clark, Henkel, Church and Dwight, Reckitt. 6 global rivals, all sophisticated, all well-funded, all hunting the exact same shelves. Yet Procter keeps winning the shelf, the recall, and the price. Every time. The question is simple. Why? The answer is a brand moat. And not one brand. A whole portfolio of them, stacked into something far stronger than any single name. So let's take it apart, layer by layer, because the layers are the whole trick. Layer 1 is the foundation everything else sits on. Recall. Decades of advertising have wired these names into your reflexes, and retailers know it, so they have to stock them or lose the shopper entirely. Think about how automatic it is. Stain on a shirt, you think Tide. Leaky diaper, Pampers. Dull razor, Gillette. That reflex was not an accident. It was bought, year after year, decade after decade. How much does that cost? Roughly $8 billion a year, just on advertising, just to stay top of mind across 10 categories. Here's the part that flips your intuition. That is not vanity spending. It's rent. It's what Procter pays to keep the moat full. Because recall is perishable. Stop paying and it starts draining the very next day. And that's the trap for everyone else. A challenger can't catch up because Procter is already $8 billion deep every single year. A startup can't write that check. Neither can a mid-sized rival. Layer 2 is where recall turns into something physical. The shelf. Procter doesn't just get stocked. It gets handed the keys. Major retailers let it act as category captain, managing the whole aisle. The planogram, the facings, the promotions. Procter often knows what sells, when, and to whom better than the store does. And it shows. Procter holds the number 1 or number 2 spot in categories that make up roughly 90% of its sales. That is not a brand portfolio. That is a controlling position in nearly every aisle it competes in. Control the shelf, and you control the exact moment someone decides. A challenger has to fight just to be seen, and then fight all over again to be chosen. Layer 3 lives on the factory floor. Scale. Make detergent at Procter's volume, and the math bends in your favor. Supplier discounts get deeper, logistics get denser, fixed costs spread thinner, and the lines run faster. A small rival with a comparable plant simply cannot hit the same cost per bottle. Look at the gap. Gross margin lands around 51%, against 25 to 35 for private label. That gap is not luck, and it's not the cycle. It's the physics of scale. And that cushion pays for everything else. The advertising, the research, the room to drop a price on promotion week. Layer 4 is what all that scale buys you with customers. Pricing power. The names are trusted enough that Procter can raise prices above inflation without watching shoppers walk. You can see it in the growth. Organic sales grew 4% last year, and almost all of it came from price, not volume. People absorbed the increases. They didn't switch. That is the real stress test of a brand, and Procter passed it cleanly in a year when money was tight. Layer 5 is the one most people overlook, the lab. Sustained research turns into clinically proven performance, and that lets Procter make claims rivals legally cannot touch. Whiter teeth in 2 weeks. 12-hour dryness, a stain gone in a single wash. Those aren't slogans, they're claims backed by trial data filed with regulators. The price of that edge? Around $2 billion a year in research, spread across 5 business segments. The spend buys the science buys the claim buys the premium, and the premium funds the next round of science. Now pull back to the financials because that is where every layer shows up at once. Gross margin near 51%. Operating margin around 21.5%. A big slice of the gap between them is advertising, the spend that keeps the recall alive in the first place. So the whole thing is circular by design. The margin funds the moat, and the moat protects the margin, round and round. But no moat is untouched. Look at the pressure building right now. First, when prices rise, retailers pour money into their own brands. And in the cheapest tiers, some shoppers trade down and never come back. Second, digital native challengers like Dollar Shave Club and Native skip the shelf entirely, going straight to younger buyers with a value story. So here's the reveal. Procter's moat isn't any one brand or any one category. It's 5 layers compounding into a single machine. Follow the loop. Recall feeds shelf control feeds scale. Scale feeds pricing power funds research, and research feeds the claims that drive recall. Right back to the start. Each layer quietly strengthens the next, decade after decade. Even the toughest ground only slows it down. Entrenched local brands in India, China, and Southeast Asia cap its growth there, but they don't break the loop. That's the thing to hold on to. The moat isn't a brand. The moat is the loop. So what does this mean for you? If you're trying to read a business clearly, the lesson of Procter is that a brand moat was never about one famous name on a box. It's about how recall, shelf, scale, price, and science wire themselves into one self-reinforcing loop. To break in, a challenger has to outspend on advertising, outnegotiate on shelf, outproduce on cost, outprice on loyalty, and outresearch on claims, all at once and every single year. That's why the portfolio is the moat, not the names. A net margin near 18% is simply what falls out when those 5 layers stay locked together. And the real lesson isn't that Procter is uniquely brilliant, it's that brand moats compound when the discipline never lets up. Watch for that loop in whatever business you look at next.